I hadn't stepped foot inside my childhood home in 6 years. As I stood on the cracked driveway, a shiver slithered down my spine, not from the December chill, but from the ghosts of laughter that had haunted me ever since I was driven away. Crazy, they'd called me. Delusional. Parasitic symbiosis, they said, was nothing but a fancy phrase for my obsession with bugs. I was the family disgrace, the bug whisperer who had lost his mind over a few insects. A knot formed in my gut as I recalled the mold outbreak that had initiated my fall from grace. I'd been working as an exterminator, a respectable trade until a tenant died, and I was scapegoated for the ensuing chaos. The finger-pointing was relentless. My mother, once my biggest supporter, had stood in the living room, her eyes cold with disappointment. "You're obsessed with these bugs. You'll only make yourself a laughingstock." My father had nodded, his silence more terrifying than any words could convey. They didn't understand what I had seen, the patterns that danced behind the walls, ancient and unyielding. But I'd persisted, pouring myself into research, mapping urban territories where the pests thrived. I had become what they mocked, an expert. Now a prestigious entomologist, my name was whispered across the scientific community with a mix of dread and awe. I had uncovered truths about parasitic relationships that were nothing short of unsettling. I was no longer the outcast. I was a harbinger of knowledge that others feared. As I knocked on the door, I could hear my heart thrumming in my ears, a primal drum echoing the dread I had buried deep. My sister opened the door, her expression frozen in shock. "Elliot?" Her voice was a whisper, laced with disbelief as she looked me up and down. I could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes, the weight of my absence pressing down on her shoulders. "What are you doing here?" I stepped in, the air fraught with the musty scent of nostalgia and regret. My parents appeared from the living room, their faces a mix of confusion and a dawning realization. The years had aged them, but the disappointment in their eyes remained untouched. "I'm here to talk," I began, but my voice faltered when I glanced at the framed family photos adorning the walls. I saw the faces of my younger self in happier times, untouched by ridicule and scorn. "I've come back to show you what I've learned." "What you've learned? Are you still chasing that nonsense?" My father's voice was low, but the disdain was palpable. I inhaled deeply, the weight of my knowledge pressing against my chest like a vice. "I've uncovered something terrible," I said, my voice steadier now, "about the pests. They're not just bugs. They carry secrets, secrets that have been sleeping beneath our feet for centuries." My mother snorted, the sound bitter and resentful. "This isn't the time for your fairy tales, Elliot." "Fairy tales?" I stepped closer, flames of frustration igniting in my gut. "Do you remember the mold outbreak? The deaths? What if I told you the mold was just a symptom, a warning of something much worse?" Their skepticism hung thick in the air, a fading veil of disbelief. I could sense their unease growing as I continued. "The pests? They're tied to an ancient plague. An evolutionary connection that changes everything we know about how we coexist with them. I've seen things, horrors, that you wouldn't believe." Laughter erupted in a cruel chorus from the back of my mind. Their laughter twisted and echoed, urging me to press on. "I've mapped it out. I can show you. But first, you have to understand the only way to truly appreciate what I found is to experience it." "What are you saying?" My sister narrowed her eyes, confusion mixing with fear. "Just trust me," I pleaded, the desperation clawing at my throat. "Come with me to the basement. I need you to witness it." They exchanged glances, hesitant but compelled by a mix of familial loyalty and curiosity. I led them down the creaking stairs into the damp, musty darkness. As we descended, the shadows closed in, and I felt it. A pulse, an ancient heartbeat thrumming beneath the floor. I reached for my satchel and produced a glass vial housing a small, pulsating mass, my discovery. This is what I found, a living colony, a symbiotic organism that thrives on fear and despair. Their connection to us is profound. They dig beneath the surface, feeding on the rot that festers in our lives. They are everywhere, embedded in our walls, waiting. As the words left my lips, the air shifted. The basement grew colder, the shadows stretching and curling around us like serpents. I watched in horror as the first of the insects emerged. They were different now, larger, more aggressive. They crawled across the floor, their bodies glistening with a sheen of something dark and terrible. "Elliot!" my mother screamed, her voice slicing through the silence as she stumbled backward. "What have you done?" The ground beneath us pulsed like a living thing, and I felt the weight of my family's disbelief hitting me like a physical force. "You need to understand. They're a manifestation of our neglect, our past sins. They feed on doubt. And now," before I could finish, the basement erupted into chaos. The mass of insects swarmed towards us, their movements erratic yet purposeful, as if they were drawn by a primal instinct to reclaim what had been buried. My father shouted, "Get back! Get out!" But it was too late. In that moment, I saw it, the recognition dawning in their eyes, the horror of facing what they had once doubted. The grotesque reality of my research enveloped them, bringing with it the weight of the past. I stood rooted in place, a bittersweet satisfaction washing over me as they screamed in terror. I had become what they feared most, not just an expert, but a vessel of truth buried in darkness. I had survived the ridicule, faced the void, and emerged with knowledge that others had chosen to ignore. As the chaos died down, I walked up the stairs. Leaving behind the echoing screams of disbelief and horror, I reached the front door, pausing for a moment, the bittersweet taste of vindication on my tongue. I looked back into the shadows of the basement and whispered, "Perhaps now you'll understand." Stepping into the frigid night, I felt a heavy weight lift, replaced by the haunting realization that my journey had only just begun. The world outside awaited, and I was ready to face the darkness that thrived beneath the surface, armed with the truths that would forever shatter the illusions of the naive. Behind me, the echoes of my family's cries lingered like a chilling reminder. Some doors should never be reopened.